Notts County Talk. Thank you for joining us, the people that are already waiting. It is a huge game coming up, isn't it, George? Tomorrow on the BT Sport cameras.
Yeah, it is. Humongous.
Probably the biggest game we've done a live preview for. And we're delighted to be joined by Adam Dunleavy, the Notts County women's team manager and big Notts fan. So we'll bring him in. We'll get his thoughts on what happened earlier in the week, Monday, feels like ages ago, and what's to come for this huge game.
Yep.
How are you, Adam?
Evening, guys. Good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, thanks for joining us, Adam. Before we get on into the preview, just wanted to sort of ask you how the women's team are getting on.
Yeah, do you know what? It's just fantastic to be back out there. So we've had a couple of training sessions back after restrictions have been lifted, and we're travelling up to Lincoln for a friendly on Tuesday, and then we're back in action on the 18th. So yeah, it's kind of gone from nothing to full tilt overnight. But yeah, it's brilliant. The girls are buzzing to be back, and yeah, just looking forward to some games between now and the end of the season now.
Yeah, I know. We've had Holly on a few times, and just before we've been sort of doing it live, been talking about how it's been, and I think it's been frustrating for a lot of the players not to. You've not even had training, have you?
No, we haven't been allowed to train under protocol even. So yeah, I think we've talked about it before around the sort of mental health aspect as well. Like football's such a release for people in terms of being able to come and blow off some steam and, you know, see the teammates and have that support network. So at a time when mental health's been at its most difficult, probably in terms of everything that's been going on in the world, to not have the football's been difficult. But no, they're a great bunch and they've stuck by each other. So it's it's good to be back out there.
Yeah, fantastic. George, you want to just say something that Notts have just released on Twitter before we go?
Yeah. So literally a couple of minutes before we've gone live today, they've announced that they're going to be wearing the black armband, as obviously today the passing of Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. I think it's a nice touch from Notts. There's obviously going to be a minute silence at the start of the game as well, but I'm sure most clubs are probably going to be doing the same thing. But yeah, good touch.
Notts have got that out early. Yeah. So obviously Hartlepool huge, but we've got to talk about Woking first off, Adam. How did you feel at half time?
It was difficult. It just felt like it was one of those tough away games. It was Notts were really trying to build stuff well. I liked the way they were sort of shifting the ball and moving the ball, and it was just that age-old thing with every team. You just need to get those final third entries and get those chances converted. And it was just one of those tough games up to that half-time point.
Yeah, because it's a very positive game all in all. Obviously, the comeback. I just want to talk about set pieces. So as a manager, it's obviously conceding a lot from set pieces. How do you attempt to sort that out?
I think it's really, really difficult. I mean, you know, it depends on the sort of skill sets of your players and the way your team want to play. If you're and how you construct your team, like Notts haven't constructed their team to be the kind of 7-foot roofers to lump it and kick it. So inevitably, you know, sometimes that, you know, you're not going to be matched up necessarily against the biggest guys in the league or the tallest strikers, the tallest defenders. But, you know, it's just organisation, I guess. You know, they've got to choose whether they're going to go zonal or man mark and execute their responsibilities as best they can. And, you know, it just comes with practice and repetition. And obviously with a new manager in, he'll have his vision on what that should look like and how they should go about defending set pieces, and hopefully we'll get plenty of time over the coming weeks to put those plans into action and make an impact.
Yeah,
I think sort of since Monday is probably, the crazy as it sounds, is the longest Birchnell's had, I think, probably with the players. It's 4 or 5 days.
Yeah,
he's not really got much time if you're building recovery time, has he?
No, but I watched his. He did a presser yesterday. And he was sort of talking through, obviously it's the longest he's had to spend time with the players and how good it was to sort of spend that time with them on the training pitch. So I think going into the game on Saturday, the how big the game is for Notts, it couldn't have really come at a better time in terms of a rest period. And it'll be interesting to see if we can see any changes in the style. I think, you know, now Birchnell's had a bit of time to actually train with the players. It'll be interesting to see. There's so many things though that I can't wait to see. Like, is Knight going to start? Is Roberts going to start? Like, it's just.
Yeah, I don't see Roberts starting. I don't see Roberts starting.
You never know.
I think he needs a bit more time to bed in. I don't think Knight will start. One person that's definitely going to start, we've got to talk about, in Jimmy Knowles, or as Carl Roberts tweeted, Jimmy Goals. And I think didn't Jimmy O'Brien, they all signed a match ball, I saw, for Knowles. And I think Jimmy O'Brien signed it. Jimmy O'Brien signed it, Jimmy Goals, yeah. I mean, for even a very small thing like that, just like they're signing a match ball for a player that I'm presuming it's his first ever senior hat-trick. Like, it's a nice touch, and it's good for the players to bring around. And I don't know if either of you saw the goal highlights with Charlie Slater's commentary. When we took the lead, the players are screaming.
Yeah.
They're literally going mad. Yeah. And I feel like, I don't want to keep saying turning points, but it seems like a turning point, back-to-back wins. What do you reckon of Knowles then, Adam?
Yeah, I think he's just I mean, obviously hopefully saw his post-match interview. I think he just comes across as a really sort of humble, hungry young man. Like he comes across as a great character. He's young, he's still learning the game, and he's got a great opportunity at Notts to be involved in senior football and playing, a regular amount of games for Notts. And he's going to have loads of stuff he can learn and develop, but he's got that sort of raw talent and real hunger to his game. He's sort of industrious. He works really, really hard. I think the sort of point of the game that it was as well, to have the composure to finish the way he did, says a huge amount about his qualities as a striker, because it's not easy, especially when you're in a game and inevitably the pressure of the season, what the 3 points means at this stage of the season. It's a lot of weight to carry. So for a young man to go and composure and just slot those goals away like he did, that's a huge testament to his ability. I really like him. I think he's a bright player.
Absolutely. Me and Tom were sort of discussing it in the discussion after the Woking game. His contract comes to an end at the end of the season. Now, I probably know the answer to this one, but would you have him on a permanent deal next season?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's surely got to be a no-brainer for him, right? Between Notts and Mansfield. I mean, it's a choice. So why wouldn't you want to come? Exactly.
You're probably biding his time at Mansfield, waiting for Notts to come calling.
Yeah, that's it.
Who wouldn't want to play for Notts over them? I don't know. I've seen a few things floating around that there's a recall clause in his contract, and Mansfield are struggling to score goals. I don't think it will happen. But if he was to go back, I'll be absolutely gutted.
I'd be very surprised because they haven't got a league. I think the EFL got about 6 or 7 games left, especially League 2, is it?
Something like that.
I don't think they've got many games left, so it would be a bit bizarre if they did, but stranger things have happened in football, I suppose.
I read that Clough had kind of said that they'd had a discussion around potentially bringing him back in January. So it may have been that, like with some deals, there's a recall clause in the January, so they can bring him back at January, and they opted not to. So that might have expired their recall clause. I don't know the details, but yeah, obviously he'd be an important player. It's kind of reminiscent of like when Yates went back to Forest that season. You just felt that was a real really important piece of the jigsaw that went missing. And I think, Knowles has a lot to offer to the team. So hopefully he sticks around till the end of the season, for sure.
Yeah, I know Clough was at one of the away games, I think, watching him. I can't remember who it was, but came to watch. So, yeah, obviously a very bright player. And as a striker, with that much confidence coming into a big game like this, 3 goals, I mean, he must literally be on top of the world. Like we've said, probably his first career hat-trick. He must be buzzing. And we're playing a sort of 3-5-2, 5-3-2. Is that something that your teams play? I think Holly mentioned. Played that before.
Yeah, we do. I mean, different managers say different things. I'm not somebody who says that I have a system. I think it's important to play to the strengths of the squad that you've got available to you. But we've got lightning fast wing backs that are comfortably the quickest player in the league and probably a couple of steps above even. So we like to do that. We like to attack the flanks. We like to get the ball wide and get direct and go direct at players, make it difficult and get balls in the box. So yeah, I really like that system. I think it can work well in terms of shoring up your defence. When you are attacking, in terms of having the 3, you've just got that bit of stability there. But also it gives you that width and ability to overlap the midfield and create a 5 in midfield and ultimately, push players on into that final third as well and make it really, really difficult for the opposition. You've got to have the right players to do it, but Notts have got a kind of plethora of wing backs, haven't they, really? They've got Dion Kelly-Evans is rapid, he's direct. Boldevine's shown he can do a job in there. Miller can play there. They've got loads of players that can play that sort of forward-thinking wing-back role. So I think it suits Notts really, really well.
I like how I feel like if we're playing the lesser teams with all respect, it sort of turns to a 3-5-2 for most of the game. And I think we'll see a lot, and you'll see later on with our team selection. I think you're looking at probably for these tricky games more of a 5. But either way, it's pretty difficult to break down, and I've been impressed with it so far. When we first went back to it, because obviously we started it at the start of last season, didn't we? Under Ardley, right at the start, it didn't really work. Like you say, Adam, we've got players for it now, and I want to see it stay for the rest of the season. I think it's not a system that's massively used, is it, in the National League? You've got a lot of teams 4-4-2s, 4-3-3s, something a bit different for teams to work on, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it was interesting sort of reading Hartlepool's manager's thoughts ahead of the game, and he was talking about all these speculations around, is Knowles going to play? Is Wooten going to come back in? Is Roberts going to play? And I think the good thing about Notts now is that we've got that strength and depth, it feels to me. And I feel like we have players of different sort of abilities and creative abilities that make it difficult for teams to suss out what we're going to do. And like you say, you can play that 5 deep, and you can sit behind the ball and build your attacks. You've got to be disciplined to make it work. A 5 can go wrong if you're not disciplined, but I think Notts have got that discipline, and the players have shown that. But it also gives them the ability then, like you say, against teams that you feel you're going to dominate possession against, to get more men forward.
George, Jim O'Brien, we're talking about him throughout the game, aren't we? We're talking, like, watching most of the games and chatting. But I know you love him.
What a player, yeah. He's been fantastic, hasn't he? Since he's been sort of given more of a run out, he's just shown his worth, I think. And like going back to Jimmy Knowles and him signing the ball and all that sort of stuff, like that just shows how much of a character he is. And like you're saying about the commentary, you can actually hear Jim O'Brien like instructing Jimmy Knowles like to take it on and take the shot, and you can sort of see. It's sort of, I feel for me, it's like he sort of fills that void that Doyle's left a little bit in not being in the squad. You know what I mean? Giving that sort of helping hand. But when you look across the squad, I feel like we have a depth of character. Like you look at Rawlinson, I think he'd be a similar sort of character.
I think, yeah.
We've got Reeves as well. Like we've got some great characters in the squad. But Jim O'Brien, I mean, technically he's been good since he comes back in. He's just been able to like carve through teams, hasn't he, with his runs. He's surprised me at how well he is, because he's one of those players that we can't deny in our lineup, so we're just forgetting about him. We hardly ever put him in, but now he's probably guaranteed because of how much he's sort of shown his worth in the last few games.
Yeah, definitely. I think it gets kind of lost, because if you're looking at vocal players that we see as leaders, we've got Doyle, obviously.
Even Slocum.
Yeah. And like you say, I think he's been forgotten a bit, O'Brien. Being stuck out on the left, I did feel for him. It was never his best position, but he never put a bad performance in there. He always played well. But the way he's stepped in now, and I think he's had to step in because Doyle's been injured. For was it 1 or 2 games he's been injured? I think he got injured against Hornchurch, didn't he? So maybe 3 games now. O'Brien's come in, absolutely class, and like you say, it's my first name on the team sheet, 100%.
Yeah, I think he's got his heart on his sleeve as well, doesn't he? Like he never stops. He's just one of those guys that, some players can lead through that vocal ability, but also you want players that lead by example, and he's just that ultimate professional. He runs for everything, he puts his heart into everything and battles for everything, and that carries teams and carries players along with you when you're putting that kind of effort in.
Yeah, I think it shows good character as well when you've been left out of the squad, like you've not consistently been playing, and to come back and play to that level, I think that shows great character as well. Like you say, wears his heart on his sleeve, class.
A few questions before we get into the Hartlepool, though, and then Max has asked, is this going to be another watch-along? No, we're not going to do a watch-along for this. I think we've decided, haven't we, George? The next one is Sutton at home, which I think is the 2nd or 3rd of May. I think that's the next watch-along. I know you're enjoying that. And quick question, we'll get this in before we go. Ben, how many minutes would you like to see Cal Roberts get? I think 45.
I'd like to see him get 90.
Yeah,
but we're not going to, are we? If we're being realistic, I mean, if he's come on for it was 15 minutes he came on for, didn't it? And he had a minor reaction. Was that the way that they phrased it?
Yeah.
So I think just keep it to that. Just keep it to 15 minutes and then reassess it after that, because you don't want to chuck him in for 45 minutes and then he picks up an injury and then he's out for the rest of the season. I think we just need to like gradually see him into it now, because I think it was quite a complex injury that he did pick up, wasn't it? So one of them.
How Adam, if you've got a player of Cal Roberts' quality, who's clearly, I think the other players in the side would be fine with us saying he's the best player in the squad. how much is there a balance between not wanting to get him re-injured, but also we're at the most crucial part of the season? Like, how's the balance?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question, isn't it? I think you have to, first and foremost, you have to put your trust in the medical professionals. Like, every manager's going to want their best players available for selection. That's obvious. You're going to want him in the side. We've seen what he does when he comes on. The biggest thing is around the fact that he draws players to him. And, it's like watching Jack Grealish in the Premier League. They have to double up on him. Oppositions have to double up on him. It creates space. It creates areas. Even if he can't get a finish off, he'll get an assist. He'll find a pocket of space. He's just a nightmare for players to deal with. So, of course, you want him in the side. But then, like you say, it's really, really important that he's here for the run-in. We'd love to go up automatic if that's not going to... If those points don't fall the way we need them to, then it's playoffs, and you're going to want a player like Cal to be at the business end of those playoffs. So it's vital that it's managed properly, and I'm sure Notts will do that. But it's also great to have somebody like Cal to bring on, 15, 20 minutes of the game left. If you can have a good start to the game, dominate possession, wear the opposition down, and then you bring somebody like Cal Roberts on, it's terrifying for defenders to know that, last 15 minutes of the game, they're going to have to deal with that. So,
yeah.
I
think stuff like that works in our favour, though. Like you're saying about Hartlepool's manager saying that they don't know if Wotton's going to come back in. They don't know if Jimmy Knowles is going to be playing. We have all these attacking threats. Like, you think there's 5 main ones, I think, now. Obviously, you've got Wotton, you've got Knowles, you've got Roberts, you've got Lewis Knight. Yeah. And it's like, you just... How do you anticipate that? And then if one of those or 2 of those players don't start, then it's like, oh God, when are they going to come on? Like, the back line must be absolute. Like, the back 4 must be like, when a player like that comes on.
We saw it, woke him, turned to the defenders, just panicked. Let's look ahead then. Hartlepool, for me, biggest game of the season by a mile.
I think every game is now, isn't it? But this is just monumental because of the league standings, isn't it?
They sit in second on 61 points and not sitting 5th on 52 points. Now, we've got 5 games in hand. So as much as I'm not saying we ever want to lose this game, but if we were to lose this game, we could still catch them if we pretty much won everything. They played 5 games more than us, and Notts have struggled to score. I think at one point we've not scored in a third of our games. Hartlepool have scored 45 goals all season. Notts have scored 41. They played 5 more games. So if anyone's struggling to score, actually Hartlepool is struggling more than us. And to have scored 45 and be up there, and they've conceded more than Notts as well. On the flip side, they've got the best home record in the league. 36 points picked up at home. Well over half their points. But Notts have the best away form at the minute. 13 unbeaten. It's literally, there's just parallels everywhere. Hartlepool are 13 unbeaten in home and away. I mean, someone's gonna. I don't think there's a draw. I think someone's winning this, and I hope it's not. I really, really do.
I hope we get the revenge for last season. Last season, Hartlepool away was shocking, wasn't it?
Dreadful. We've already spoke about that on the last preview. Everything that went wrong could have gone wrong. Literally, I haven't seen a Notts performance like that in so long, and it's a long old drive up to Hartlepool. But yeah, Notts unbeaten 13 away. I hadn't actually realised that. With all the doom and gloom that's been going around, 13 unbeaten away in all competitions is massive.
Yeah, it's
huge. So, looking at the stats, I'm pretty confident going into the game. Now, Adam, you said this just before we came on, and Dale's reiterated the point that he's been reading that they are basically down to the bare bones at the back. And I think their goalkeeper's out injured, isn't he? Broken his elbow or his shoulder.
So I think it was his elbow, yeah.
So as you've already said, George, we've got the attacking intent. They're down to bare bones at the back. We've actually seen what a chopping and changing can do in terms of Notts. We've lost Lacey at points. We've had Turner in. We've lost Turner. Brindley's gone. How much of a hand is that for Notts? Because I don't think you can flip that on the positive. I don't think you can say Hartlepool. I don't think they can't benefit from this. I don't even think if your players pull together, I still don't think if you're missing most of your back 5 or whatever they play, I don't see that being anything in anyone's favour but Notts.
It depends how we plan for the game. I think our game plan is crucial tomorrow. like it depends if we're going to put it on them straight away, or just sort of play them at their own game for like 45, 60 minutes, and then bring the quicker subs on, and then attack their defense when they're getting a bit tired. Like you said, they're down to the bones. The keeper's injured. That can cause a bit of a not a rift, but like communication issues. So I'm hoping we can capitalize. But I think game plan is crucial tomorrow. Game management.
How would you play, Adam? How would you play this game?
I think it's a difficult one, really, isn't it? Because I think on balance, I don't know, obviously both teams are going to want to win the game, but on balance, Hartlepool will probably be happier to have a draw than Notts would. So you might not see Hartlepool go and attack the game as aggressively as they might do against another opposition, because they'll be aware that if they draw the game, it makes it difficult for us to claw those points back on them, even with the games in hand. So it's one of those where, you know, they might not come out all guns blazing and try and attack the game as much as they might usually do. They might be conscious of that. I think, relationships with defenders is so vital. We said before we came on, like, you know, all successful teams always have that stability of their sort of defensive spine of the team. And if that's a question, or you've got players kind of learning each other or learning the roles and responsibilities, it's not going to be a great game for them to have to do that baptism of fire against, you know, a team with this sort of creative options that Notts have got that they can sort of deploy on the weekend. So yeah, I think it's in Notts' favour. I think, you know, we have to concentrate on our strengths and go and attack the game. And obviously, like we say, the unbeaten run away is massive. So what they've been doing away from home has been working. So it's just more of the same, and, you know, be patient and you know, fingers crossed.
Yeah, I said I mentioned this. James Edwards on Twitter tweeted us earlier and said it feels like Barrow away from last season. I think it does.
Couldn't agree more with that.
We went away to Barrow and we saw the lineup, didn't we, on the way up in the car? Bearing in mind, we've gone about 30 miles in the wrong direction at this point. And we couldn't believe the lineup. And I don't think we'll be seeing that tomorrow. I think we'll be pretty sure of the lineup, but Notts pulled it out of the bag. And I think this group of players will have Barrow on their mind. And the players that are in there already, you know, even the likes of Roberts and O'Brien, they're going to say to the young players, they've got to say, look, we did this last season to the league leaders, and at that point they were the runaway league leaders. They were killing teams off 4-0, 3-0. I think that we'll have one eye on the Barrow fixture, and we saw what it did for us. It propelled us really to a playoff final that we didn't perform in. But one fixture can make the season. We said, haven't we, George, like 200 times on the channel, that I think we still would have gone up if the season had continued. And it's that momentum. Momentum is huge. Yep. It can do so much for us. Adam, before we let you go, I'm going to ask for a prediction for tomorrow.
I'm going to call it a 1-0 Notts, and I reckon the goal will come like after the 70th minute. I think it'll be a tense game, but I'm hoping Notts will come through 1-0 in the end.
Nice scorer.
Performance. Who's the scorer? I'd like to see Jim O'Brien get one, so I'm gonna go with Jim O'Brien. Fingers crossed.
He definitely deserves it.
100%.
Adam, thank you for joining us. Really appreciate that. Especially as it's the preview before a huge game. So really interesting to see your thoughts on that, and obviously from a manager's point of view as well.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thanks as always for having us on, and really enjoyed it, guys. Cheers.
I'll see you later.
Cheers, guys.
Okay, George. So
lineup.
We'll go for our lineup straight away. We'll go to jump straight into our lineup.
Let's go then. In goal, Slocum. Picks himself, doesn't he? We won't expand on that one. We've gone for the 3-5-2 again, as I've already sort of alluded to.
This will be a more defensive 3-5-2, I think, though.
Yeah. So, yeah, you could probably say a 5 at the back more so than a 3 at the back, but we'll see. We'll see how the game pans out. It should be interesting to see if Birchnell is going to sort of attack the game as let's bring the game to them, or let's sort of manage the game to around the way they play. But
it's interesting, like quickly, sorry, what Adam was saying about actually they could be happy with the draw. I really can't call this game because Sutton don't play. Sutton don't have a game, and Wrexham play Stockport, and all of a sudden even a draw clauses a point back, but it's not enough, is it? Whereas for them, is it enough? Because they've got games. Sutton have games in hand over them. I can't call it.
I think so. I think a draw is enough for them. I mean, Will they be going into that game thinking, let's get the draw? Absolutely not. But I do feel like if we are 1 goal ahead, they'll put everything on us to claw just the one back, because they're on that unbeaten run, aren't they? So it gets to a point then where it's like you're protecting the unbeaten run more than it would be like. So it's a clash, isn't it? So I think I cannot wait for tomorrow's game, and I'm so annoyed that it's the later kickoff. It's on BT, so we've got to wait another 2 hours and 20 minutes because it kicks off at 5:20. But I suppose that's just the way of the world when it's.
No, I like that.
I don't. I wish kickoff was at 12 midday.
Let's see what the other teams can do. Let's see what the other teams can do.
Yeah, I suppose that is a slight advantage. Yeah.
Back three, we've gone Rawlinson, Ellis, and Lacey. I think Birchall said he's looking to be back fit. Let's hope. I think Chickson, phenomenal. He's called upon to come back in. Lack of match sharpness, everything to come back in. Absolutely.
Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised to see him. I wouldn't, because I don't know if they're going to rush Lacey back in. But I do think that is our strongest back three, as good as Chickson has been.
Yeah, I think it's tricky. Now, we said it's sort of a 3 or 5. For this one, he's played brilliantly again, Enzio. I think we have Kelly Evans and Barnett, don't we?
Yeah.
I think.
It's kind of like what I alluded to earlier about having those attacking options to bring on. I think if Kelly Evans isn't working and he's not exploiting the pockets of space that you do get as a wing back, bring him on, bring Enzio on at half time, and then it's like all of a sudden you've got one of our best players on the pitch, and he's got time, he's got like space to attack. It's just, I just feel, I mean, I shouldn't, but I feel really confident going into this game, because you just like potentially on the bench we could have Enzio, Roberts, and Knight all to come on if the lineup stays the way that we're saying it, which I don't really think it can stray too far from. But yeah, I'll go on to the central midfielders before I.
Just quickly, I think leaving Enzio out, I think it's also game management now, fitness-wise, because that's a grueling position, especially with the work rate he's been putting in. He's been putting so much in, clearing off the line, getting up for attacks. I think unleash him either second half, or if it's going well, Solihull. Because at the minute, I do think he's a better, more effective sort of wing back than Kelly Evans. But I think for this one, this is going to be tough, really tough, and I would Kelly Evans in.
I think it's going to be exciting to see how Brindley fares at right wing back when he's back, but we'll talk about that at a later preview. So midfield then, gone for Reeves and O'Brien. Sort of the deeper of the two would probably be Reeves and O'Brien, sort of making those runs that he has been. But then Rodriguez sitting behind the two strikers in more of an attacking midfielder role as he prefers. Love to see Rodriguez really work the game well. Just open it up a bit for us, do you know what I mean? And I feel like if we start with Wootton and Knowles, like we've put on the on our preferred lineup, it'd be interesting to see if he stays on the pitch for the full 90 minutes, which we've not seen masses from this season from Rodriguez. And then Knight comes on, and then all of a sudden he's got 2 runners to play into. I think that could be an exciting sort of plan for Notts to sort of go for, I think.
Yeah, I think Griffiths has been playing, hasn't he, in the spot we've chosen Rodriguez here. Griffiths has done pretty well to say he's just come in. But I think he's not as attacking as Rodriguez, which gives more cover in the middle. And I think by having those more defensive Kelly Evans and Barnett, it allows us to have a bit more of an attacking Rodriguez. And I just think, this for me is a defensive lineup that can also hit on the break, or can easily be switched by taking out Kelly Evans and bringing in Enzio or a Carl Roberts or a Knight. So yeah, that's the lineup I've gone for. Really hard to pick a lineup at the minute, definitely. Prediction, George, we'll let you go first.
I've gone for a 2-1 Notts. I think the game is pretty much, it's going to be similar to Woking, I think. I think we're going to be absorbing a lot of pressure in the first half. And then in the second half, I think we're going to really sort of go for it. And I think we're going to see that sort of charged up second half performance. And I just, it's crazy what a couple of weeks can do, isn't it? Because I remember being so just, confidence was rock bottom with the club and the squad. So
you were nearly crying after Aldershot.
I mean, I just didn't tell you.
You were in bits.
I was in bits, mate. No, I wasn't actually crying. No, so yeah, I've gone for a 2-1, but I think we're going to get our goals later on in the game, sort of like Adam said. I've gone for Knowles and Mutton to get one. I hope Mutton gets one because I watched his press yesterday. I felt a bit sorry for him because he was talking about referees and how he feels like he's hard done by. And like Lee Curtis was saying to him, you're probably one of the most hard done by strikers in the league. And I mean, I've not watched every game in the National League, but I can't help but agree. And I feel sorry for him. So I hope he gets a goal, and I hope he doesn't get a yellow card because he seems to get one every game, doesn't he? For jumping up to head the ball.
Massively unfair done by. I go on to mine. I think it sort of reflects the lineup I've gone for. I think it's going to be Hartlepool 0, Notts 1. I'm going Knowles to score. I think it'll be high in confidence, and I've already said coming into a game like Hartlepool, he must feel like 8 foot tall. You know.
Yeah.
He could score the winner here. You never know what kind of run he could go on to the end of the season. We've seen some strikers in this division literally scoring like 9 out of 10 games, and they just shoot up there. We saw that with Michael Cheek earlier in the season for Bromley. So I think 1-0. I think it could really set us up. It could massively set us up for the remainder of this season. If we go and win this, and someone's dropping points between Stockport and Wrexham, and Sutton aren't playing, all of a sudden, games in hand, momentum looks very, very different, doesn't it?
It does.
Very different, very different. So there's our lineup and prediction. Really tricky to call the lineup, and obviously to predict the score. We've probably not got many right this season. But remember, it's a 5:20 kickoff on BT Sport. If you can't watch the game, we'll be keeping you up to date on Twitter with a few tweets on that one. Did think about a watch along, but we're going to be saving that for the Sutton game. As always, thank you for joining us. Big thanks to Adam who came on. Really interesting to hear his points of view. And don't forget to like, comment,